Once upon a time, there were 3 piglets named Dip, Tip, and Pip. Dip was the eldest and the most responsible one. His parents had raised him to look after his more careless younger brothers, who would play in the meadow all day long without a care in the world. Dip liked to play too, of course, but sometimes he also had to do grown-up tasks. Since birth, Dip had had a black spot around his left eye. Tip and Pip would always tease him about it. They'd ask him if he had forgotten to wash his face in the morning, telling him that his eye looked dirty. This would upset Dip, especially because he actually made sure to wash properly in order to set a good example for his brothers. Dip was also very wise and liked to teach his brothers things, but Tip and Pip hated having lessons from their brother. Whenever they didn't feel like listening to him preach, they would start giggling and point at Dip's spot. This usually led to a chase, which was exactly what Tip and Pip wanted. Since Dip was bigger and heavier, the youngsters could run faster than him. Tip, the middle brother, was a little naughty. He liked to drag Pip into games and adventures that he had thought up. He disliked doing chores and didn't really enjoy learning. He often wondered whether he really needed to grow up at all. Pip had a hard time listening to his older brother or to his parents. None of them knew what to do about it. Tip was aware that he was supposed to listen to his elders and do as he was told, but sometimes a new adventure was just too good to resist. Pip, the youngest, was no better than Tip. Sunbathing lazily in the grass was what he enjoyed most, along with whistling his favorite tune and watching the clouds float across the sky. He loved playing hide and seek, but his parents banned that game. The wolf was very cunning though. He spent his days scheming up new ways to catch the piglets. His mouth watered whenever he imagined the delicious dinners he would make out of them. But it wasn't easy for him to achieve this. Time passed, and Dip, Tip, and Pip grew up fast. Their family home started feeling rather crowded with all 5 of them living there. So one day their parents told them it was time they moved out. "You are old enough now," their father said. The eldest, Dip, nodded in agreement and wasted no time in getting started. He thought everything through. He made plans and preparations, exactly as his parents had taught him to do. Any task you undertake must be done properly, they had always told the piglets. Dip decided that the most sensible building material to use would be brick, even though a brick house was difficult to construct and took longer. He chose to build his house in the meadow, at a good distance from the forest. In contrast, Tip and Pip didn't feel like putting so much effort into building their houses, because that would leave hardly any time for fun. Tip, the middle brother, chose a nearby location in the meadow and decided to build his house out of wood. The youngest brother, Pip, was even lazier. He would build his house in the same meadow, but he decided to make it out of straw. Planning things or thinking too hard wasn't really for him. So Pip just took some dry twigs he found next to the forest. Later, while Tip and Pip were playing in the meadow, Dip was busy putting the finishing touches on his brick house. As usual, his brothers teased him and tried to persuade him to stop working and come play with them. It was the end of the day before Dip's house was completely finished, at which time he trotted off to play with his brothers in the meadow. They had no idea that the big bad wolf had been watching them the whole time. The wolf thought hard about what to do. The door was firmly positioned, and he couldn't see any way to dislodge it. But in spite of this, he ran at it and hit it with all his might. Bang! "Ow, ow, that hurts," he whined.